You put on your suit, gloves, boots, top, and helmet. The monochrome urban cityscape passes you by as you make your way to the facility. A large crowd has surrounded your destination as you arrive. And thus begins the tale of the Multimedium, a game released in early 2023 by Micah Boursier, a game developer and animator who you might know from Birdgut and recently Poco. The story follows an adventurous explorer traveling through the multiverse via a new experimental procedure. But things go awry, and our explorer finds themselves both lost in the multiverse and their own personal struggles to find their place in the cosmos. Now, while this game could seem like a cool platformer with pretty visuals at first glance, there's much more to it than meets the eye, considering every single visual in here is hand-drawn with real art supplies and then photo-scanned into the game by Micah. Excluding the user interface and other promotional materials, he ended up using 260 sheets of paper to craft fantastical forests ruled by towering beasts, oppressive prison expanses, post-apocalyptic ruins of a world far past its prime, and much more. Every universe has a unique style, story, tone, and most importantly, art medium. With an incredible soundtrack by Miguel Arda, Ren Sung, and Taylor Baum, and the surprisingly profound story which I will get into soon, this game is a fantastic experience and very much worth a try no matter who you are and what your skill level is. Now for the rest of the video, I'm gonna go through the whole story. Although this means there will be spoilers, this way I can discuss everything great about the game, while also presenting the narrative as intended. So without further ado, let's follow our explorer into the multiverse. I'm going to call our explorer here you, as according to the game's official art book, they're supposed to be nameless and anonymous. Alright, so you exit the vehicle and walk down a barred red carpet. There's already so much detail in this scene. The flat industrial city in the background and the huge group of people. One thing you'll come to notice about this game is it's really good at establishing shots. 5 seconds into each world and you know exactly what the theme is going to be. You enter the facility and are greeted by a member of the scientist staff. They express their concern that you might have not shown up and their appreciation for your bravery. How could I not show up after all my training? This is a dream come true for me. Clearly, you're a courageous one. The scientist staff begin guiding you to the machine. The control scheme for this game is pretty basic. You can move around with the WASD keys, jump with space, push and pull heavy boxes by holding onto them with shift, interact with objects using E, and lastly climb up certain ropes and walls. You can change the keybinds to whatever you want though. Although there's nothing special with the explorer's moveset, you will soon learn that the game's environments provide more than enough variety and excitement in gameplay. Once you're done calibration, you go up the elevator and walk the final hallway. On the way, you walk past a poster of a black cat, go directly under a ladder, and the warp room is labeled 13. I'm not one for superstitions, but this might be some subtle foreshadowing. Eventually, you reach the machine room. It's massive, with tubes extending wide across, enormous pieces of equipment, and a vacant spot just for you.
Alright, now stay right there and stand very still. We are going to start with the machine, and if everything works as planned, you should be warped to the next closest universe to our own. Again, that's if it works. You really sure you want to do this? Last chance to back out.
Sure as I'll ever be.
That is decided. Thank you for your sacrifice. If all goes well, you'll be our universe's first interdimensional explorer, our universal ambassador, our medium between worlds. Either way though, it is truly an honor to have known you.
The main scientist gives you an important final message. In order to cross the dimensional border and bring yourself back to your original universe, you must find any power source whatsoever. Your backpack can do this, and it comes equipped with jumper cables, so returning should be easy, so long as everything functions within normal parameters. The scientists watch from afar as the machine rumbles and activates. You get zapped, colorful visions of light protrude outward, and you disappear into the multiverse. Whoa, I made it. So this is what another universe looks like. Well, this is beautiful. You appear in this fantastical purplish lime forest-like area with trees stretching up for who knows how high. There are nests that house what seems to be a mix of a flying squirrel and a bird. Speaking of birds, as you continue down the path, you can see these massive quadrupedal bird-like creatures with flower-like bulbs protruding from their behinds and long beaks at the end of their faces. You can hear them softly humming deeply. One of the birds actually helps you cross some deadly vines. These are one of the many hazards here. After hitching a ride, you enter this dark blue cave. And if you listen closely, the music here actually changes. This game has quite a few pieces of dynamic audio where there are 2 or more songs that sound similar but have slight instrumental variations, and they seamlessly blend in and out of each other depending on what's happening. See if you can spot any dynamic audio as you watch the rest of the video. Anyway, back to the cave, you use these pinkish vines and cobbled walls to traverse the cavern and avoid the previously mentioned deadly vines. The cave is inhabited by its own entire ecosystem, including flora and fauna. There are these pufferfish-like turtles with spikes that pop out when you get near, large flowery bushes, and lots of mushrooms. Enormous mushroom platforms, mushroom bushes, mushroom trees. From the art book, I felt that decomposition fit with an important theme of the level, which was the moral ambiguity of nature. Natural predation and fungal decay are examples of necessary parts of an ecosystem that are often viewed as ugly. I'll get back to this at the end of the level. There are quite a few puzzles in this game, but if you're not into that sort of thing, they're quite intuitive and balance well with actual platformer mechanics. So the longest you'll take on a single puzzle is, say, 30 seconds, and it's never too challenging so as to be frustrating. Another great thing about the puzzles in this game is they introduce new mechanics individually, and then seamlessly merge them after, so you can understand the dynamics of an element before you need to use it in combination with others. Like right as you enter the cave, you reach a room with a cobbled box and you push it forward so you can get to the next vine. Right after that, you reach a room with some tall geysers which you learn are fatal. And in the third room, they combine both of these elements, where you push and pull the box to block the geysers. Seems obvious, but in terms of level design, this is much easier said than done. Clearly, there's a lot of thought put into the environment-player interaction. Alright, anyway, you eventually reach these pea shooter flowers, which spit out these lethal balls. Your first encounter with these, you obviously need to avoid them, but right after, you learn to use the power of these balls to your advantage. With these pipes that can redirect the path of the ball, and special boxes with these pipes on it, you're able to break through fragile walls. Kinda reminds me of the pellets from Portal in the sense that they're a puzzle mechanic, but at the same time you need to avoid touching them. Pretty much all the puzzles in this level are moving boxes in some way, shape, or form, which makes sense considering it's the first actual level. Eventually, you get introduced to these bouncy orange trampolines, and it's integrated into the rest of the level. They make a really satisfying noise when you bounce on them, and it's fun to be launched in the air. There's some fun platforming areas near the end that utilize them. This room kinda reminds me of Doodle Jump. After that, you exit the cave and cross a chasm, only to go back into a much shorter cave. This one, though, is ominously filled with massive bones and plenty of flies who loudly buzz around, revealing an aura of death and decay. At the end of the tunnel, you find a blue orb. It has arcs of electricity glowing across it. If you connect your crocodile hooks to it, you can jumpstart your device and hopefully go back home. You dash the way you came to try to outrun the beast. It clambers through the cavern, its huge jaw tailing right behind you, throwing bones in the air as it continues its pursuit as you exit the cave. It's a dead end, but luckily the monster breaks the large branch underneath with one of its claws. You fall down into another cave and platform through an underground tunnel with the monster continuing to chase you. It's nothing too difficult, especially since you've absorbed basically all the mechanics. The challenge in this game tends to be on the easy side, and it's also extremely generous with checkpoints since it's more about the visuals and story rather than the difficulty curve. There also might be some rubber banding here, which is basically when a game speeds up or slows down an enemy's speed to keep it a set distance away from the player. Eventually, you reach a cavern with a flower spewing the deadly balls I mentioned earlier, but instead of you being on the receiving end, you direct it at the beast. This works perfectly, and after 3 hits, the monster is knocked out. Now you can take its electricity and hopefully go back home, but is it really worth it? Micah mentions in the art book that although you might be relieved or heroic to have defeated the beast in the end, it was quite literally and figuratively a large part of the ecosystem it inhabited, so there is some question as to whether your actions have left a positive impact on the world. This becomes a major theme as the larger story of the game begins to take hold. Anyway, for now, you can clamp onto the uvula of the monster and hopefully get transported back to your home universe.
Wait a minute, where am I? I was supposed to warp back home. Maybe there's a problem with the machine. I'm sure they'll get it figured out. In the meantime, I guess I'll explore this place.
Whoa, this is definitely not your home universe, and a massive tone shift. I love when games suddenly become horror for no reason whatsoever. You walk the snowy dark valleys, the lifeless trees pass you by, and you encounter a strange creature.
Hello there, strange creature. I'm assuming you don't understand a word I'm saying.
That's actually pretty funny. A short moment of glee before you learn some bad news. The creature reveals that their child has gotten lost in the deep temple below. You offer to help, but the creature exclaims that there's a terrifying monster that lives in its crevices, and the only bits of safety lie in the temple's glowing crystals and light plants. You realize that these should be able to work as a power source, so you ask the creature where the temple is and head forth despite their warnings. You fall down into the dark sandy cave, clearly not in its prime. Crumbled walls, fractured pillars, spiders crawling all over the place. There's also quite a lot of hand imagery in this level, which may suggest that it was something of worship to the people of this ancient society. Maybe that worship wasn't enough. A little fact, the music that plays here extends multiple octaves across, so you'd need more than 2 hands to play it. And I will talk about why I love the music eventually, I'm just saving it for the next level. Anyway, most of the gameplay here is darkness based. It's the standard step out of the light and you get slashed mechanic. This single mechanic is approached in different ways. First, there's bulbs that give you a short period of light emanating from yourself. Then there's boxes with lamps on them that you must push across the level. Soon after, the lights are mechanical, lamps that rhythmically open and close. The classic massive rotating circle. A lamp on a track that can't leave your sight, you get the idea. I think it works very well in this style and color palette, and it adds to the unsettling tone of the level. The terrifying beast could be right in front of you, obscured by the darkness, and you wouldn't notice until it's too late. There are also some deadly black spikes, perhaps designed to keep intruders like you out. The hand imagery also persists throughout the temple. Hand-shaped flowers, hand-shaped statues, massive hand-shaped monuments with fingers falling off. Perhaps there was a god of this land who used their hands to craft the world, like an artist painting for an art museum. Maybe the people of this land revered its creator's palms. Explains why they were so devout to them. Sometimes you catch fast glimpses of the monster the villager above foretold of, but you never go face to face with it. Eventually, you climb into this tight hallway. The only way forward is through a claustrophobic break in the wall.
What the heck was that?
I think we know what that is. It's red light, green light. Sort of. Instead of having to stop when the watcher turns around, you must be behind something. If it notices you exposed, it will pounce and devour your flesh. This is a pretty intense sequence. The dark bells and drums of the music ring ominously as you stand just meters away from the enormous beast, its breathing loud and audible. After you cross, evading the hand creature, you climb upwards and do it again. This time in the room above, from left to right. Here there are bigger gaps between objects, so you must time your movements with greater precision. You reach and climb a long rope that extends to some platforms at the top of the tall room. When you reach them, you slam a heavy box into the watcher and it scurries away. You escape into a crystalline cavern, where the villager's child is cowering in the corner.
Ah, there you are. You got a talent for getting lost, kid.
The child is terrified at first, but you tell them that you're here for rescue. You ask if they can walk, and they respond by telling you that they broke their ankle running from the monster. The child still thinks the beast is at large, but you're sure that box would have gotten rid of it, so things should be okay. That was interesting. Instead of eating you and the child alive, the monster spared both and even opened the door for you. From the art book.
I wanted to trick the player into believing that the creature was more animalistic, but then revealing that it was in fact a sentient, intelligent being by the end.
Very interesting, and it ties into the point about moral ambiguity from earlier. Alright, after taking the elevator conveniently located right in front of where the child was, you exit out into the snowy village from before. You reunite the kid with their parent, to the villager's delightment and appreciation. The villager asks how they can repay you, and you request a power source since you never thought to grab one down at the temple. Turns out they've got a lot of them, more than they know what to do with, and the villager's happy to lend you one.
Thanks, I'll give this a try.
You clamp onto the crystal and hopefully get teleported back to your home universe.
I still haven't warped home. Now I'm getting a little concerned.
Well, this certainly isn't your home universe either, but definitely a breath of fresh air from the last, which is aptly the name of the song you're hearing right now. I will talk about the music very soon, I'm just holding off until the end of this level. Anyway, you start in this beautiful pastel forest. The sun shines brightly, pink palm trees hang above, the bright blue sky paints the horizon. Eventually, after walking a little, you reach a cliff face and dive into the water below, which is where pretty much the entire level takes place. Makes sense since everything is painted watercolor. This universe is, in my opinion, the most beautiful and relaxing environment in the explorer's journey, so enjoy it while you can. Underwater levels kind of have a bad reputation in games, but the swimming here is fluid, no pun intended, and is satisfying to control. You swim through large bright pink tunnels, colorful coral reefs fill up the scene, schools of fish pass you by. My god, I could relax here for ages. There are some dangers though, which tend to be mostly natural, like pink stinging jellyfish, deadly blue spiky urchins, expanding pufferfish, and these cute little swordfish. They actually come in pretty handy since you're eventually able to use their dash attack to break open walls. Like the previous universe, there seems to have been an ancient society here. It's possible that this one might have been a little exploitative, but we'll get into that later. Most of the puzzles involve interacting with what this Atlantis-like city left behind. First, you encounter a basic door and lever system where you pull on a large ring to open its respective door. This is expanded upon with more levers and these anemones which pump out heartstrings of bubbles you can't swim against. Halfway through, the channels start to chamber out into these really large half-above water sections. Here we also encounter these large boxes, which you have to maneuver around to get where you want to go. They're buoyant, so they tend to be used for crossing the water. Near the end, you encounter some puzzles which play with water levels. One of them involves the previously mentioned swordfish, which you use to open a large basin of water into the lower area so you can cross. The other, you pull open a valve to drain a small area so a box blocking the exit can fall down. I think these puzzles are pretty cool. The water physics are quite pretty to look at, honestly. After this, you go down a thin channel into a room with a stone that seems to direct you to a power source. Perfect. You're now stuck in a large room with this massive electrical eel. Don't underestimate its somewhat cute appearance. It can do some lethal damage if you're not careful. You know what? Hold up for a second. There is some, as I mentioned, fantastic music in this game. I would argue that this game's soundtrack is a major selling point. From emotional and beautiful like this one, to intense and exciting, to gritty and harsh, the music in this game is often really, really good, and at best, quite emotional. So Miguel, Ren, and Taylor, great stuff. Alright, I'm done glazing, back to our eel. He has 3 attacks. First, he dashes forwards in a wiggle formation. The electricity on his skin is lethal, so you gotta avoid it entirely. Then he curls up into a ball and fires electric orbs. Did not expect to see bullet hell in this game, honestly. Talk about a variety of gameplay. His last attack is like the first, but he now charges much faster and straight ahead. At the end of the attack, he gets stuck in the ground, but instead of attacking it back, you remove one of the 3 copper bolts stuck inside his body. You see where this is going here? Maybe this eel has motive. You do the same thing 2 more times for the rest of the bolts. Avoid the charges, dodge the electric bullets, avoid the faster charges, and remove a bolt. Once you remove all the eel's bolts, you come face to face with him. You try to get him to spare you by convincing him you're poisonous, but he tells you to relax. He thanks you for removing the bolts and apologizes for attacking you, saying he confused you for someone else. You ask him out of curiosity how he got those bolts stuck inside him, and he gives a pretty upsetting answer. I'll let him talk.
You're not from around here, huh? Well, you may have noticed all the ancient ruins lying around. Those were built by civilization as small but intelligent beings not unlike yourself. They captured and enslaved me and used those bolts to harness my electric charge as a power source. For decades, I've had those things embedded in my skin and have had no way to get them out. Another one of the many downsides to having no articulate appendages.
Damn, that's actually horrible, isn't it? Good thing you saved the eel from any further pain. Similar to the villager, the eel asks how he can repay you. Since he's an electric eel, you ask to use some of his electricity to activate your device.
That's another difference between you and my former captors. You ask politely.
You clamp onto his flipper, the device activates, and you hopefully get transported back to your home universe.
Okay, now I'm really lost. Am I ever gonna go home? I can't just keep this up forever.
Looks like you're starting to get quite concerned. No worries, as this universe marks an important step on the explorer's journey. You start out in a lush green forest. In terms of the landscape, I'm personally not a huge fan of dark forest environments, but in true multimedia fashion, it's still beautiful. It's like walking through a Bob Ross painting. After going down the forest, you reach a sign that seems to be some kind of advertisement.
Free enlightenment for all who reach the monastery atop the mountain. Well, I've got nothing better to do, and I could certainly use some enlightenment right about now.
So, like a certain very popular platformer, you're going to be scaling this large mountain, which will hopefully enlighten you at the summit. And as you continue upwards, the environment will gradually, but eventually completely shift. This is actually pretty impressive from a game design standpoint, for the transition not to be jarring. Anyway, there are several hills too steep to climb, but it seems like someone had built wooden platforms, ropes, and flags to assist you in your ascent. Perhaps it was in self-interest, maybe they were seeking enlightenment as well, or maybe it was a society that lived on the mountain. Whatever it was, they come in handy and allow you to continue upwards. Eventually, after crossing a large bridge, you have to go into these caves surrounded by gravel. Here is where the puzzles start, all of which are based around these moving platforms that can switch directions at the pull of its corresponding lever, and doors that function similarly. Personally, these puzzles took me some time first playthrough, since you have to sit around on these slow platforms, nothing too hard though. Thus far, and continuing into most of the rest of the level, there are no natural dangers, rather the seemingly man-made spikes and spinning saws. Not sure why you want to put those there, but alright. As you get higher, the flowery hills become a little more desolate as you see more and more snow. Eventually, you reach these rocks. I'm so sorry. Obviously, that's not what actually happens. In reality, you climb the rocks and enter a large mossless cave. Looks like there might have been a civilization here, since it seems like they've built this basin to pump up water to their houses. After that large cave, you find a convenient gondola and enter. As it ascends, you somehow already go above the clouds, and the landscape changes drastically. Pretty much everything here is covered in snow now. The song that plays here is called "Hypothermia Never Bothered Me Anyway," which I think is pretty funny. Not long after this large puzzle and some platforming through rocks and ropes, you fall into this underground chamber.
Yikes, a skeleton! And an absurdly large one at that. From the looks of it, they must have been a mountain climber. Well, I guess they won't be needing this anymore.
You now have the grappling hook, which does pretty much what you think it does. You can grapple onto any icy surface and it will pull you towards it. Only those surfaces though. Using this is actually really fun in my opinion. It's so satisfying to fly around like Spider-Man. Interestingly enough, this was not originally going to be in the game. From the art book,
Believe it or not, in the first draft of the game, the acrylic level didn't include the grappling hook section at all. After I had the first playtesters give the game a try, I asked them what their least and most favorite parts were, and most of them said that they thought the acrylic level was boring, and overall they liked the moment-to-moment excitement of platforming or chase sections more than some of the puzzles. I realized that I had inadvertently made the most vital story level into the most forgettable one.
That's why playtesting is so important when you're making a game. Everyone I've seen play this game really enjoyed the grappling hook, and if you do end up playing it, I think you will as well. As for this being the most vital story level, let's keep going and find out why. As you continue your ascent, you see less forest and more ice, snow, and icicles. The grappling hook is eventually combined with the style of puzzles from earlier, usually based around these large moving boxes with ice on them. These allow you to get the hang of the grappling hook if you haven't used this sort of thing before. After this large puzzle, the music mysteriously cuts out. You try to grapple onto the nearby ice block and this happens. That's a strong monster, damn. This part could be a little tough for some people, since the Yeti is repeatedly throwing down these large spiky snowballs to exactly where you're standing. So not only do you have to continue upwards, you have to constantly be moving to avoid the balls. Kinda reminds me of Spike from Mario, that one green guy that functions very similarly. Since we're on the approach to the summit, you ascend through two pretty long, completely vertical sections, one inside this tight cave, and the following through these floating ice rocks and wooden platforms. After that, you find what seems to be the remains of a monastery. There's a huge bell tower, and there are stars lighting up from it, which is a clever way to signal to the player that you should ring the bell with your grappling hook. The deafening sound causes an avalanche. Buried in snow, you manage to clamber out.
Wait, where did my grappling hook go? Aw man, I must have lost it somewhere in the avalanche, and right when I was getting used to it too.
Well, looks like the Yeti won't be a problem anymore though. You walk through the large pile of snow, climb a little more, and reach the monastery. There are floating rocks in the air. You walk the clay buildings and eventually reach a pile of rocks that morph into a being. You're ready for another fight, but the rock creature tells you that they mean no harm and posits that you seem to be full of inner turmoil. You remember the free enlightenment sign, and the rock creature tells you that you've come to the right place. The rock creature walks you up a long set of stairs. In the art book, these people are highly obsessive and affected by some sort of curse, though the details of this curse are left very vague. You reach a large pedestal where there are more rock beings. The rock creature says that this is where you will see beyond, and to lie on the pedestal. The rock creature claims that many people have come before you with the help of their guidance, and that the stars in the sky will show you who you are, who you're meant to be, and who you're destined to become. You're reasonably skeptical, but decide to give it a go. You go onto the pedestal, and the rock creature tells you to imagine yourself falling into the vast depths of the heavens and lose touch with your physical vessel. And after staring at the clouds, it doesn't work.
No. Keep trying. You just need to relax. Well, that's kind of hard with you all staring at me. Ignore all the unnecessary stimuli. Only pay attention to the stars far above. Lose yourself in the sky. Go forth and find your sign.
Wow, it actually worked. You fly up into the evening sky past the clouds. The sky becomes dark as stars shine brightly. Eventually, you reach a constellation.
Look closer. What is it a constellation of? Whoa, I see something. It's a lobster claw? A claw. Oh yes, the mighty claw. It's an ancient symbol. It means that you are meant to be a hero, mighty and powerful. You are bold and pure of heart. A good sign for sure. You are a virtuous one. Thank you. I never would have guessed a bottom feeder could be a symbol for virtue.
You start to fly back down, back through the clouds, and back on the platform.
Wow, I actually feel enlightened.
The rock creature asks if you feel a little less aimless, and surprisingly, you do.
It's almost like the universe, or rather the multiverse, wanted me to get lost. I've been chosen. I'm a hero.
Yes, of course. You rescued the child from the underground cave. You saved the electric eel from a life of pain and suffering. It's clear now. You were meant to be a hero.
From here on out, in all my travels, I will fight evil. I will be an interdimensional force of good.
Now you just need a power source, and luckily your revelation spawned a light bulb above your head. So, brimming with realized purpose, you clip onto the light bulb and go to the next universe.
Alright, new world, new problems to solve. A hero's work is never done.
Okay, we're at my personal favorite level. Drawing inspiration from Micah's previous game, Birdgut, this universe is gonna feel like a whole game in and of itself. First room, and you can already probably tell what this is gonna be about. Seems like we're inside some kind of factory, and it seems like there's some ethical issues here too. The shape you're born as here seems to define your role in this society. You take a platform up, cross some deadly pits, and go down into a large holding room. Seems like this factory is also a prison. You meet a square-shaped person held in a large cage. You tell him you're an interdimensional hero and fate has brought you here, which he's glad to hear, since according to him, his people are in dire need of one. He explains that the circle people capture the square people from birth, overwork them, and hold them in cages. You empathize with the square people's discontent, and agree to help them revolt against the oppression. First though, you gotta get this one out of his cage, which you're able to easily do by pushing it off the ledge. You both continue through the hallway and reach a block path. Square Guy explains that this ring out of both your reach opens the door. He suggests that you throw him at it so he can grab on it and pull it down, which works. This is the main mechanic throughout the level. The throwing gameplay is pretty simple. The Square Guy follows you pretty much everywhere, so you can just grab him when you need him. After he's grabbed, you can just aim similar to the grappling hook and he'll follow the guidance line's trajectory. Quite simple, but eventually you have to be more strategic with your throws. You continue through several rooms, highly surveilled and secured. I really like the environment here. What you'll get to see as we continue is it has the combined aesthetics of both a grungy prison and a huge industrial factory, along with the undertones of an authoritarian surveillance state. A very large shift from the more naturalistic animal ecosystems of the previous universes. I love the music here, and the song for the boss later is another reference. Do you get that? A couple rooms after the first door, you encounter a hallway with a circle guard holding a gun which shoots these balls, which can be immobilized by throwing a square guy directly at them. These guards continue to appear throughout the level and pose quite a threat since their ammo causes instant death. A little bit of trivia from the art book. Micah's goal was to not make these guns look too violent, primitive, or futuristic. I landed right in the middle with a sort of musket-like gun with a funnel barrel that felt just goofy enough not to be taken too seriously. Right after you pass the first circle guard, you reach a room with another square person. After terminating the circle guard and freeing the square person, they follow you just as the other square person does. So now you have 2 square guys, and the puzzles are going to get a little more complex, typically with 2 levers. One thing I like is in the room right after with that elevated circle guard, you can see some posters reflecting the culture and values of the society. One with a circle person literally stepping on a square person, and the other what seems to be a circle king. These are good because they add quite a lot to this place's world building. Speaking of world building, there's something I haven't yet mentioned. Throughout the entire game, there are these things called artifacts, which are items that can be found in secret areas, which give you some extra information about the world they inhabit. If you get all of them, you even unlock a secret ending. I haven't and won't reveal them, since there's at least something I don't spoil, but they're quite interesting. Anyway, as you continue through the prison, the challenges become more elaborate. Your party of 2 square people becomes 3 as you rescue another. Oftentimes, levers or guards are hidden behind doors, which forces you to think strategically about where you throw the square people. And if you couldn't tell already, doors with a light and buzzer requires all the levers to the left of it to be pulled down. The area is littered with circle guards who pose an immediate threat if not taken out, as well as some deadly spikes. Perhaps this is the remainder of a triangle species. They have even less size than a square, so who knows what the circles could have done to them. Avoiding the enemies and throwing the square people across genuinely feels like a prison escape, and it's actually quite fun. Eventually, you exit the prison building into the surrounding fenced courtyard. I really like the hills in the back here. It kind of reminds me of some Dr. Seuss illustrations. After taking out the circle guard on top of the watchtower, climbing up and pulling its lever, you continue down the path. You hide in a bush as you see a circle person in a forklift open the door ahead once the scale measures past the weight limit. Not sure if this is intentional, but the forklift holding 3 boxes might be visually communicating that 3 of your square friends is enough weight to open the door. You enter what I assume is a factory or some kind of storage building, and then parkour up a set of boxes. You and the square people continue through the facility, passing by a tennis match between the circle people. They don't seem so happy, to be honest. You continue past a large security room with its watchkeeper asleep, into what seems to be a dead end.
It seems we've reached a dead end. I can't get any of you up there, and I can't get out of here myself. I think there's a way, but you'll have to face the king alone. What do you mean?
Looks like we're gonna meet that king that was in the poster we saw. You climb through the vent and enter an elevator. Anyway, you exit the elevator and meet with the king's secretary. You demand to speak with him, and the secretary requests to allow you in without an appointment, which he accepts. You enter the large throne room, much nicer than the grimy prisons of the square people. You come face to face with the cartoonish Circle King, and I honestly think it's better if I let this dialogue speak for itself.
Hello, foreigner. Have you come bearing gifts? Good tidings?
Not at all. Quite the opposite, in fact. I've come to call you out on your treatment of the square people. It's wrong and it has to stop.
What's wrong with my treatment of the squares? This is the first complaint I've heard.
What's wrong? Keeping them in cages and forcing them to work with no pay. That's what's wrong.
Well, when you put it in that way, it sounds bad. I prefer to think of it as giving them a place to live and something to do. They should be thanking me.
Seriously, dude? That's messed up. If it's such good treatment, why aren't you doing the same to the circle people?
Well, because we're superior, of course. Infinite sides, infinite corners. Far more advanced than the squares with just 4, wouldn't you say?
That's shapist.
Shapist? Me? Never.
Hey, spacesuit person, up here.
You rush squares into my throne room? First, you come in here without an appointment. Then you talk back to me. And now you bring these dirty squares into my throne room?
This is unacceptable.
Whoa, you okay, man?
You will be destroyed.
Okay, this genuinely caught me so off guard when I first saw this. Actually hilarious as shit. Anyway, this is actually quite a complex boss fight. The Circle King has 2 arm devices which can attack in different ways and can function independently from each other. A fist is a punch which punches out deadly waves on the ground, and a pointer finger is a gun. The gun either shoots individual rounds or streams of bullets depending on the other hand. After a couple attacks, the death ray below the king starts charging up. You can use this time to grab onto one of the square people and throw them onto one of the arm guns to break it off. With only one arm, the attacks are faster, punches are harder to dodge, and he constantly fires in streams, though once again, the king makes the mistake of letting his guard down to charge the death ray, and if you throw before the laser starts, you can tear off the remaining arm device. We're not done yet, because if things weren't crazy enough, The king is revealed to be one massive machine with a little circle person inside controlling it. Now he uses the death ray to shoot out small lasers that bounce across all the walls, along with 2 large laser beams that force you into one spot. Eventually, he starts to charge a massive laser blast which will eventually kill you, but you throw a square person right into him and he dies on the spot, destroying the rest of the king machine in the process. The large crown is left standing on the ground in front of you. The square people are overjoyed at your triumph, congratulating you as a hero and suggesting that you take the crown to become their new leader. You decline, taking account that it is now your duty to help people in need. You ask if they happen to have a power source so you can transport to the next universe, and they suggest the crown since it is a source of power. Surprisingly, it works. That's really weird, isn't it?
Here we go again.
Who will our hero rescue this time? You appear in a very large, colorful flower bed. Judging by everything else, you might be the small one here. Maple leaves fall in the distance and individual flower stems look like trees. You continue through the dirt, going left this time since the right path is blocked, and eventually enter what seems to be a large maple tree. You climb up its stairs and reach a family of frogs taking residence in this tree. You explain to the frog parent that you're an interdimensional hero and if they need any assistance, to which they respond with a yes. They explain that they have many children to feed, but a broken leg means they can't forage for the ingredients necessary to supply said children. All the frog needs is for you to get the ingredients, while they can cook on their own. You accept this request gladly and ask what the first ingredient is, to which the frog tells you is a squash seed typically found in some gourds towards the east.
Here, I'll open the door for you. Report back here when you found it, and then I'll tell you where you can get the next ingredient. Alrighty then, I'll be back in a jiffy.
Alright, time to collect some ingredients. You exit through the east door and walk down a large branch on the maple tree onto a zip line. You zoom down the wire, blowing away some dandelions near the ground. A nice touch, there are a couple of those here. You continue through the flowery dirt, crossing platforms and ropes. This is personally not my favorite level in terms of style and theme, but it's undoubtedly beautiful. Very soon after, you reach a large, relatively normal-sized cricket. You can jump on its back and use its antennae to tell it where you want to go, Ratatouille style. As you can see, the cricket gives you a much larger jumping height. You'll meet other insects on the way with their own special abilities. You traverse the garden with your newfound strength, sometimes having to jump off the bug to climb things or handle stuff. This is how the few puzzles here are mainly set up. Relatively simple stuff, but oftentimes they make it so you gotta keep track of where you dismount, so you can access the cricket from a different angle. And don't touch anything dangerous or... Ew, that's a lot of appendages. Soon enough, you leave the cricket since this wall is too steep for it to jump over. After a little walking, you reach the squash. You snatch a single seed and start heading back, continuing the way you came since the level loops around. You platform up another tall maple tree, climbing up ropes and walls. When you get to the top, you meet a large beetle. You mount it, and this insect's ability is to charge forwards with speed, so you can easily break through walls and cross large gaps. You dash through the canopy, maple and helicopter leaves falling in the background and foreground. There are a few puzzles here which are similar to the crickets, but the curved flat surfaces and the branches make for more horizontal gameplay. I like how the architecture here is so well integrated into the forest. The use of gold and brown colors make it seem like part of the ecosystem, not something designed onto it. It's also quite satisfying to control the beetle, smashing through walls and jumping over huge gaps with ease. Again, you leave the insect since you can't jump at all. If you end up playing this game yourself, I really recommend looking for the bird and hamster artifacts here. I won't say where they are, but the way to find the latter is somewhere around this area. You continue left and enter back into the tree. You tell the frog you found the seed and throw it into the pot.
Oh my, that smells good already.
The frog tells you that the next ingredient, the red-capped mushroom, is typically found in moist areas, oftentimes underground. You exit through the west-facing door, platform through some flowers, and reach a bee. Ooh, here we go. As you can probably predict, the bee's special ability is to fly. It can shoot stinger pellets, which you'll use to your advantage later. You enter through this pretty tight tunnel with purple vines lining its surface. This whole area, which is basically a long open cavern, is actually quite challenging since you need to be very precise with your movements, and you have to continuously fly until you reach a safe platform. The vines are fatal on one hit, and the fact that there are some mechanical parts here makes it even harder. There are also these purplish bugs, which are what I assume to be wasps. They're quite small, but also kill you on one hit, so it's best to use your stinger pellets on them. I like how the lavender and orange flowers, along with the turquoise roots, mix with the foreground. Quite pretty if I do say so myself. But I digress. You eventually reach a room with a very large wasp. This actually serves as the main boss fight for the level, and is reasonably challenging, albeit very simple. You just gotta shoot at the wasp with your stinger attack while avoiding the little wasps that fly at you. After you beat the large wasp, it explodes into many pieces. Ew. You do a short puzzle, and must leave the bee since it can't get past the water basin. After exiting the basin, you enter this very deep hole in the ground. It's quite moist as well, with water dripping down its branches. Expectedly, you find the mushroom patch and pick one off. Now you just need to find a way out of this cave. You continued through the damp cavern. Seems like this game really likes caves, huh? There's like one in almost every level. Anyway, you reach a webbed area, and what do you know? It's a spider. The spider's special ability is it can climb any wall no matter its direction. You can jump from one wall to another and you will follow its gravity. It kinda reminds me of the planets from the Mario Galaxy games, but I bet there are many others that use this mechanic as well. Oh, and by the way, now that we're pretty far into the level, if you couldn't tell already, Miguel literally created 6 different tracks that sound similar, but have a few instrumental and melodic changes depending on if you're riding a bug, which one you're riding, and one for the wasp fight. That's crazy, but a choice that in my opinion is totally worth it. As I mentioned before, like many others, I feel that dynamic audio really does add to a game. Anyway, you continue through the cavern, which what I assume is the spider's domain since there's cobwebs everywhere. There are quite a few puzzles, which similar to the previous are mainly based on opening doors with levers and buttons. One thing worth noting is the spider can push down buttons, so sometimes you need to leave it there to open doors and such. There's also this huge skeleton, which what looks to be some kind of dinosaur remains. There's also some of the purple vines from before, and they pose a little bit of a threat, especially when you're switching sides. The last puzzle here is pretty cool, with a large moving circle which you use to get to the exit, which ends in some pretty scary jumps. After that, you leave the spider due to a tadpole-filled water basin. This basin happens to be at the foot of the maple tree. You climb up the stairs once more and reach the frog.
Hey, back already? Yep, and I got that mushroom you ordered. Good work, add it to the stew. What just happened? That was the wrong kind of mushroom. This gas is poisonous. Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I can still fix this. I have to make it up to you somehow. Somehow.
Oh god.
What just happened? I never jump-started the suit. How did I warp? I didn't get to help that frog. I left at the worst time.
Oof, that sucks. Hopefully you can redeem yourself in this universe. It seems that you have appeared in some kind of metropolitan train station. You take the escalator up to the city, and it's bustling with these faceless, otherwise normal human people. This is another one of my favorite levels. I'm a huge fan of the collage style and setting. I would love to see a whole game like this, honestly. There's a small crosswalk with dangerous oncoming traffic, and I like how this effect is done. Cars zoom past in the foreground as you continue through the cityscape, until you reach a TV playing some disturbing news.
Breaking news. A giant unidentified object has appeared out of nowhere in outer space, and it's set to collide with our planet. Any moment now will enter our atmosphere and likely cause unprecedented destruction. Scientists still have no idea what it is, and it's not like any other meteor or space junk we have ever seen before. There's nothing we can do to stop it. This may be the end of the world, folks. Now, let's check in with Jim for the weather forecast.
The temperatures today will reach into the multiple hundreds at the impact site. On touchdown, there will be a powerful shockwave and mass destruction, so be ready for that. You might expect cloudy skies post-impact due to the dust and debris kicked into the atmosphere. Oh, and don't forget your umbrella today. We're expecting some ash raining from the sky.
Almost a minute after you came here, everything has turned to chaos. People anticipating the collision riot and run across the streets. They fight over vending machines and steal, chase each other with fiery torches, spray paint over no parking fire lane signs to say parking fire lane. You're introduced to these elevators, which are controlled by levers, and you'll see later, through this relatively simple box puzzle. Right after, you go up a bunch of windowsills and enter a building. A little off topic, I won't show you exactly where, but there's a room around this area with a mark on the wall which bears quite a bit of resemblance to the baby from the classic horror YouTube series Salad Fingers. His name was Stitchhead, I think. He's one of the many interesting Easter eggs, and if you think it's something else, please let me know. Anyway, you get on top of the building and platform across a couple rooftops. You're high enough to see the city skyscrapers. Almost every building has collapsed to the ground. There's rubble and dust everywhere. There's fire all over the place and sparks are in the air. Now things have really gone to shit. Rips in the very fabric of space-time are formed around you. Behind them is nothing but the blackness of space and the stars within it. A lot of these are actually the classic dual portal mechanic, where you go through one and come out the other at the same speed. You continue through the ruins of the city, so functional just a minute ago, using the portals to traverse past walls. Remaining human survivors walk slouched and miserable along the fiery hellscape. Cars are totaled and rooms split in half. The majority of this area are puzzles centered around the portals, and they usually involve moving large boxes around so you can get up to inaccessible locations, or are conservation of momentum based, where you fling yourself around, since again, the speed at which you enter a portal is the speed you exit. Actually makes for some pretty satisfying gameplay, and the puzzles are quite well designed. There's also a lot of moving walls and doors, controlled by toggleable levers, including the elevator mechanic I mentioned earlier. This often means portals on movable surfaces. There's also quite a handful of the deadly wooden spikes. I like this little puzzle, kinda reminds me of Red Ball if anyone remembers that game. Even in such a messed up landscape, the composition and color scheme is still great. Just to be clear, in his words from the art book, Micah feels like he kinda cheated a little with this universe, since despite taking every photo you see here, he assembled it all digitally not to waste supplies, which is perfectly reasonable in my opinion. The music here is great and fits very well with the tone of the area. There are actually quite a lot of leitmotifs here, including the rest of the soundtrack as well, which if you didn't know are just recurrent motifs that can signify different themes or events. I'm mentioning these so late because I didn't feel like going through all of them, but again, there are quite a handful. Anyway, after completing a puzzle with 3 pairs of portals, you continue past some buildings. The camera zooms in, and 2 people are pointing and staring at something to your left. You are not outrunning this thing, but you can potentially outcycle it on a nearby bicycle. You speed through concrete hills, leaping through portals and avoiding spikes. The huge monster tails behind, turning everything it touches into a chaotic mess. Victims of the monster morph into a random assortment of objects when they're unlucky enough to come into contact with the enormous beast. This is so fun. Albeit a very intense and pretty disturbing moment in the story, but fun nonetheless. It reminds me of those vehicle games I used to play when I was younger. The portals are quite well used here, and it's very fun to jump through them, with one personal exception. It's probably just me, but I find this to be a little unsatisfying. Nothing terrible, but moving 10 meters back 4 times just felt a little weird to me. Also, music here is fantastic. The YouTube release currently stands as Micah's most viewed video, second to the Eel Boss song, and I think we can partially thank the Amen break for that. Credit to Miguel though, of course, and a little fun fact, the organ motif was actually inspired by the hummings of his girlfriend, which I actually think is pretty sweet. Anyway, after witnessing a couple more people die to the monster, you reach this devilish pit where you have to dismount the bicycle and grab onto the rope, or else you die as well. You run from the monster on your feet as it morphs even more people into miscellaneous objects, eventually reaching a dead end. The monster stops and you question it on its motives. It explains that despite having nothing to gain from destroying this planet, it does so anyway, since it's a being of pure chaos and its job is to enforce entropy.
I can't help it. Everything I touch is returned to a state of disarray. Perfect randomness.
But why? Why can't you just leave this planet alone?
Take it from me, mortal, not everything needs a reason why. I do what must be done, I have no motives. You can't convince me to stop, either move out of my way or accept your fate.
No, I will stop you myself.
Sure, suit yourself.
The monster climbs up the building, probably going to destroy this entire planet. After chewing you up and spitting you out, you're still alive, but you feel different and your arm has shifted.
My arm. It's a lobster claw. But why? What's that supposed to mean? I have failed again. What kind of hero am I?
You warp to another universe. This universe is not like any of the rest.
Maybe I'm not meant to be a hero after all. I couldn't help that frog and I couldn't save that city. Was I wrong to believe that there was some bigger meaning for me in the stars? Is this claw a reminder of my true purpose, or just a cosmic coincidence? It all seemed so clear atop that mountain. I thought the multiverse was sending me places where I could make a change or be a hero. What's a hero supposed to do around here? Who am I supposed to save or help in this void? I'm so tired, I give up. I don't want to be a hero anymore. I just want to go home. I just want to sleep in my old bed and forget all of this. It seems I don't decide when to warp anymore. I guess I'm stuck here forever. Or at least until fate decides it's my time to go.
You land on a circle with nothing surrounding it, and you take a leap of faith, landing on another circle. So you take another, again and again. Higher and higher. This place is really not like the others, what seems to be a different dimension entirely. The mirrors seem to reflect the world in which you came from. You exit the bathroom into what seems to be a museum, where the only way you can exit is through the exhibit display. You walk past some sculptures, and eventually enter the painting room, and you see everything. The aimlessness, the being of pure entropy, the gourd and the insects who helped you in your journey, the oppressive circle regime, the mountain where you thought you found your purpose, the underwater ruins where you saved that eel, the hand-worshipping ancient society, and of course, the birds with the flower-like bulbs protruding from their behinds. We're not done though, as you continue into a long hallway, with a final painting at the end of it. The most familiar of them all. I hope you understand now why I think this game is so great and that I did it justice. Micah wants everyone to receive their own message, but to not end unsatisfyingly, I will give you a bit of my interpretation, and it's that the universe is inherently chaotic and lawless. There are no pre-selected heroes and villains. You can do good things, but to think that the universe has chosen you as a hero would be to reject its fundamental laws. The Collage monster is, as it said, the personification of entropy, and as we saw, it can't be reasoned with, it must exist and therefore must enforce itself upon everything. But I don't think this means you shouldn't do good things, it just means you can't be a hero all the time. Our explorer was too tough on themselves. For someone who had done some pretty heroic things for so many people, single mistakes had thrown them off balance, making them doubt their self-worth, which I feel was misguided. I think that the ending itself is a little more vague. Perhaps it can be interpreted as an endless loop where the explorer is stuck traveling the same universes over and over again. Or maybe they simply went back to their home universe as they wished, perhaps with a new outlook on life. I prefer to stick with the latter. Again, it's all up to interpretation, so take my analysis with a grain of salt. Micah, if you're somehow watching this, you made something really special, and I'm very much looking forward to any future endeavors you may have. In fact, since this video took much longer than I hoped, Micah has actually released his new game Poco around a month ago. I haven't played it yet to not lose motivation on this project, but it looks awesome and it's completely free. I have linked Micah's channel in the description, along with the fantastic composers Miguel, Ren, and Taylor. Anyway, thanks for watching my first actual video. I do apologize if I made any mistakes or did anything wrong. I'll probably have hundreds of regrets as I do with most of my work. My aim for the future of this channel is to tell the stories of not so well known games so people can experience the creative visions and oftentimes incredible narratives coming from the people who made them, while also hopefully giving it some more awareness and doing some analysis. I believe that some of the best modern art comes from games, but we just don't really recognize it since it's almost all indie. Thank you so much for watching till the end, I really do appreciate it. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!